How many in the audience have an Amazon Echo? Okay, good. How many have a Google Home? How many have the new Apple HomePod? How many have all three? Okay, so the other question is, how many of you guys use voice search on your smartphone? Yeah? Okay. Anybody in here use Cortana to open up apps or to search for things? So we got a few people. All right. So you probably have noticed that there are a lot of different devices that I talked about. So we're not just going to talk about Alexa. We're not just going to talk about Google Home. We're going to talk about voice search in general and how you can increase the odds of your business's content being a voice search result, okay? So for all these people in the room that have these great devices, I think you're going to appreciate this video. Who doesn't love the Doors? So has anybody in the room experienced something like that? Yes. All right. So the main point of that little cute video clip, which I absolutely love, is that voice search is here. It may not be perfect. It may not give you the right answers all the time, but it's here, it's coming. And the whole point on you guys being in this room is to start thinking about ways that you can start optimizing your content and your website for voice search. Everybody excited about that? Yeah? Okay. So I found out, Ryan had mentioned in his opening ceremony about the little girl that ordered all the sugar cookies. So for those of you that were able to make that session, you know that Alexa sometimes has a mind of her own. And this is just an example where Sarah Huckabee Sanders' little 2-year-old was able to order a $79 Batman toy by screaming, "Batman, Batman," to Alexa. So we know that kind of stuff happens, and I personally know that because I was on a webinar the other day, and somebody used the A word, the Alexa word, and my Amazon Echo piped in and said that it wanted to confirm my toilet paper order. And so I have no idea what I'm going to go home to. I may come home to a big box of toilet paper from Amazon, but you know, it's fun to know that you're able to do all these great things with these wonderful technologies. And this is probably how her son felt after his mom canceled the order. So smart speaker sales grew last year by 103%, and they were actually the fastest consumer technology device last year. So how many of you guys have purchased a virtual assistant or a voice assistant like this within the past year? Okay, so fairly new. I was lucky and got my Amazon Echo when they were doing almost like the beta program because I was her Prime member. So I had mine for a while. So she's gotten a lot used to me. But the numbers are staggering. Everybody wants to compete in this market, and there's going to be a lot more competition, okay? By 2020, 50% of all searches are going to be voice searches. Does that surprise anybody here? And the reason why, I think, is because as a society, we're getting lazier. You know, we used to be able to type, and then that got a little boring, and then typing on those little screens, it's just much easier to talk, right? And when you're trying to find information, it's easier to find information when you can use real words instead of Best Bar San Diego. It's just not natural. So Gary Vaynerchuk has a new book out, and if you have not ordered it yet from Amazon, use your Alexa to do so. But get crushing it. It's actually really a fantastic read. I haven't gotten through all the way, but he did make this really profound statement that related to this topic today, so I thought that I would bring it up. He had said there's nothing that's going to disrupt marketing to the level that voice will since social media came to the market in 2009. Okay, and this is Gary V we're talking about. So we're going to talk at the end about how developers can get in on the voice search game by creating skills and content for these devices. Do we have any developers or programmers in the room? Okay, so we have a few of you. Awesome. Okay, so we are going to touch on that. But if you are a developer or program, you're going to want to pay attention to the couple last slides that I have and start thinking about how you can learn how to do this. So the search engines that power voice search results, they really look at everything about your business online. So people say, well, Sherry, how can I rank, and be the one voice search? There's not one answer for that. If you have any search engine optimization experience, you probably know that it's a multitude of strategies that you incorporate into your client's campaign or the campaign for your business in order to improve your rankings. Voice search is no different. You just have to add more on top of it, and you have to do everything better than your competitors. So when I talk about the digital footprint, Google looks at everything, and the same goes with Apple and all of the other devices. They look at your whole digital marketing presence online. So they look at social media. They look at if your site is secure. They look at your load time for your website. Google announced the other day that if your site is not loading fast, starting July, it's going to be a major ranking factor. So for those of you that may want to scurry off after this session and run a Google speed test on your site, now would be the time to do it, because in July it's going to really become a major factor. So whether or not you have reviews, whether or not you respond to those reviews, do you have your Google My Business listing claimed? Is it optimized? So those are all things that the search engines look at. So what I'm going to talk about today are different strategies and tips that you can use to hopefully increase your odds of showing up in voice search using a lot of these strategies. Does that sound good? Everybody? All right, sounds good. Okay. So I love this. I use a couple of slides and data from SEO Clarity. They did a lot of research on voice search. And they said with voice search, you win or lose, there's no second place. And there really isn't. The only instance where there may be a little wiggle room is if when you're on your mobile device and you do a search and it comes up with text results. So it doesn't actually talk to you. It gives you a list of maybe Google My Business close listings of businesses next to you or near you. But for the most part, there's really one answer in voice search. But there are different types of voice searches and devices out there. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So there are a lot of different platforms. We have Siri, we have Cortana, we have Amazon Alexa, we have Google Home. There's just tons. And the thing is, there's going to be a lot more development in this area. Alexa, or I should say Echo, Amazon's Echo platform, is going to start being pre-installed on major computers starting this year. So Cortana is going to have some competition there. So the market is really opening up to the whole voice search thing, and it's really going to be an important thing to follow. So a lot of people, when they saw the little description of my presentation today with Alexa, we are going to talk a lot about the virtual assistants and the voice search assistants, but we're also going to talk about how you can rank on smartphone devices, for instance, if you're looking for a tattoo parlor near you or whatever. So don't just think about the cool devices that are out there and those gadgets. You really want to try and think of all the different ways your clients or your customers search. So as I mentioned, we've got a lot of different devices out there. Sony is coming out with something new. A lot of the programs that are running these devices are now being put on third-party devices, so you can get a really great speaker with the Amazon Alexa backend as the device's voice assistant. So there's lots of cool stuff going out there. There's going to be lots of partnerships, and we only expect the number of these types of devices to increase. The cool thing is you can use these devices and voice search for a lot of great things. Who's ever ordered anything online with either their phone or Alexa using voice? Only a few of you. Are you guys afraid of it? Yeah? Okay. How many of you have used it to turn on your lights or your smartphone? All right, we've got some great early adopters here. I love this. Getting a ride, like you're at the hotel, Ubering. Okay, awesome. And then my favorite is music, all right? I love my Amazon Alexa for music, and that is the best thing to do. And then it also wakes me up every morning. So there are a lot of things that you can teach your little personal assistant to do, and those are the types of things that developers are going to learn and need to learn how to do in order to stay ahead. So there's not just one way to search. So we're talking about search queries, and that would be someone asking the question, where is the best tattoo parlor in San Diego? Or who is the governor of Iowa? Those types of questions. You know, if you're in a business, it might be pet related. You know, like what is the best dog breed for a family with young kids? Those types of questions. And then there's also engagement, and that's when you ask your device to remind you of something. Remind Sherry at 4 o'clock that she needs to go to the grocery store. And, you know, open up PowerPoint, those types of things. So when you're thinking about the different type of search queries out there, those are the main two. Now, everyone knows that Google is out to make money, right? But one of their other sole purposes is to make sure that the results that they show are the best quality results. They want everybody, when they do a search on Google, to feel like they've got the best results and that what they were looking for was found by the information that Google gave back to you. So they really do want to provide the best answer and make money on Google AdWords. But they really do, first and foremost, want to be the best search engine that provides the best information. So when we're talking about ranking, we have a lot of SEOs in here. How many are professional SEOs? Okay, how many are dabbling in search engine optimization? And that's okay, dabbling's good, okay? We're gonna talk right now about position 0, and you will sometimes hear that referred to as the answer box or a featured snippet. And I know you've seen these, okay? Position 0 is really the coveted spot. And the reason why it's position 0 is because it appears above organic search results. Now, it will sometimes appear below ads, but it typically appears above organic search results. So you think of the first ranking in the results page, the SERPs, this is one-upping it. So if you do a search for what are the SEO benefits of podcasting, you will see that this is a featured snippet. This gentleman, Phil Singleton, he's a web developer in Kansas City, is in position 0 for this search term. Now what Google does is it analyzes all the sites out there, and it realized that Phil really wrote a blog post that answers the questions that people are asking about, are there benefits to podcasting? Now, I know we heard from Pat Flynn yesterday and learned the benefits of podcasting from a promotional side, but if you think about it, there are a lot of reasons why podcasting can help with your rankings as well. And so Phil wrote this blog post, and if you go ahead and use your smart device, chances are if you search for SEO benefits of podcasting, his page is going to show up, okay? So for those of you that are on the first page of search results, so if you're thinking about one of your main keywords, how many of you know that either for a client or for your own business, you're ranking on that first page? You don't have to be number 1, but you know that you're close. Okay, so we've got, oh, come on. More? Okay, you guys are going to work on that. Okay, I'm going to give you a list of things. The great thing is, to be in voice search, you don't have to be in number 1 initially. You have to work your way up to that position 0. And that's going to involve you going back and seeing what the spot is, who is in that 0 spot, what they're doing overall, and how you can beat them. And there are actually some great SEO tools out there that will help you know whether or not you have a better chance of becoming that position 0 or that featured snippet. So 68% of the position 0 results are not the first organic search engine result. So what does this mean to you guys? It means a big opportunity. So in this case, the result that showed up as a featured snippet is not the first organic search result. Does that surprise anybody? Yeah, it kind of does, because you would think if it was a featured snippet, it would also be the first search result answer, and it's not always the case. So when you guys are looking at where you're ranking on the SERPs for a particular keyword that you're interested in, if you're ranking 5th or 6th, there's opportunity there. Okay? And again, in this case, the featured snippet is not the first one. So this really means opportunity for everybody out there who is really creeping up on those keywords that you're targeting and are beginning to rank high. That's when you put on your detective hat and you start researching who is in that 0 spot, or if nobody's there, guys, it's wide open for you to come in and try and get it. So when you win position 0, your result is typically going to be the one that's going to show up as a voice result. So it's going to be the one that's spoken and or show up as a display when you are looking on your smartphone. It's really the holy grail, guys. So this is an example, oil changing tips. So the search was, how do you change oil in your car? Now you see that Google has a numbered list. There are several different types of featured snippets that Google will display. They can display bulleted list, numbered list, videos. There's a couple different ones that you guys can shoot for. So you can also optimize your videos to show up in these search results as well and get in featured snippets. And if your description says what it needs to say and answers the questions people are going to be searching for, that can increase the likelihood of getting in position 0. So what I'm going to do right now is talk about the featured snippet and kind of break it down and do like the anatomy of a featured snippet. How does it become a featured snippet? So if you search again for what are the SEO benefits of podcasting, you'll see that understanding the SEO benefits of podcasting is a heading 1 on Phil Singleton's page. Okay? So those keywords are tagged as an H1 on his site. You'll also see that the title and the description have those keywords in it. Now, Google doesn't necessarily use title and description as a ranking factor, but I have a feeling that it has something to do with voice search results and that position 0, because it tends to show when you have those keywords in these titles and description tags, it will increase your odds of showing up. Here's another example. How do you respond to negative reviews online? And this one's kind of fun because this one's mine. But if you're using Google Assistant on your phone, it shows up as one of the top 3 results. And that's, again, where it's not spoken to you, but you see almost like a carousel of answers. So you see the tie-in between the desktop, the mobile. They all kind of are linking together, and they're very similar results. So what Google did in this instance, so in this case, you can see that there are ads above my featured snippet here. So that can happen, but still I do rank for this particular search term above all the organic search results. So the strange thing that Google does is the numbered list, they took all of my heading 2s on my blog post and turned them into steps. Does that surprise anybody that Google would take the time to do that, or that it would be smart enough to know to do that? Kind of surprised me at first. So I would have thought it would have been a bulleted list or something like that, but it literally scanned my blog post, and generally I write between usually around 1,500 on up as far as word count goes, and it took all of my heading 2s and turned them into a featured snippet with a numbered list. Okay? And you will see in the title, I have those keywords, and in the URL. Okay, that's another place where you want to use those natural words as to what people are going to be looking for. So that is kind of the analogy and the anatomy of what a featured snippet looks like, that position 0, and how Google will translate the content on your page to a featured snippet. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. So again, this is the blog post. So you can see the title was How to Respond to Negative Online Reviews. And then again, you'll see over to the right of that is the actual content of that blog post. And again, keep calm, take a deep breath, H2. You must respond to negative reviewer, H2, okay? So when you're writing, if you're not using headings, start using them. A lot of people will just take their title or their main section and just boldface it or just manually make it a larger font. Be sure that you're making them H1s, H2s, H3s, and that's going to help Google understand what's most important. And it's also going to help the other search engines understand that there's a logical progression of the content on your page. So another example is how to drive a car for beginners. I have twin girls that are 15. Does anybody want to take them out, teach them how to learn how to drive for me? I don't want to do it. So I did a search for that. And again, in this case, what Google did is this website had a bulleted list, and it turned it into a numbered list, almost like a step-by-step list. And again, the title and the description all have those keywords in them. So again, the position 0, they took the bulleted list that was on that blog post and turned it into a numbered list for people, and that was position 0. So that was what would show up in your smartphone results and or would be said aloud, depending on the device that you're using. Okay. Now, local businesses, there are no featured snippets or position 0s for local businesses. I don't know if the search engines are planning on changing that, but it kind of stinks for local businesses. So what you want to try and do is get on those online directories, claim your Google My Business listing, make sure it's optimized and your information is correct. But just know that if you're working with local clients or you're a local business yourself, there is a shot of you showing up. It's just a little bit different. How many people in here have clients, that local small to medium-sized businesses that are clients? Okay. How many people are optimizing your own websites? Okay, so that's, okay, great. And then how many small to medium-sized business owners do we have, or larger? How many huge corporations do we have in here? A few of those too. Awesome, great. So Google recently released a document called Reintroduction to Google Featured Snippets. I'm going to talk about this in a little bit later in the presentation, but there's a ton of different words that Google has come up with for all of these different cute little pictures that come out in search result pages. And they're finally going to just call it one thing instead of featured snippets and, you know, all those types of things. They're trying to narrow it down so it's a lot easier language for us to use. Does anybody here use SEMrush as a tool? Okay. Did you know that SEMrush in their content idea section will tell you if one of your pages has a chance of becoming a featured snippet? If you did not know that, it's time to go to the help files of SEMrush and learn how to do that. Because what they'll do is they will look at whatever algorithm they use, they'll look and let you know whether or not one of your pages has an increased likelihood of showing as a featured snippet, and they will give you advice on what you need to change on your page to hopefully get that position 0. Moz also does the same thing. Part of their platform is they can track featured snippets, and they can help you figure out if your website pages, any one of those pages could be a featured snippet. So, and there's other tools out in the market too that are probably either going to incorporate this type of help for you guys, or you know, they're going to give you tutorials, or they're going to build it in their platform because it's so important. Okay? So keyword strategies. When it comes to keywords, You need to know how to optimize your pages for voice search. So how many of you have heard of long tail keywords? Long tail keywords just got longer, guys. So think longer, long tail keywords. So typically, when you think of keywords, you think of the whole, find best something. You don't think of speaking it out loud. The technology for voice search allows people to search in real language, like normal people talk back and forth. So typically, the voice queries are going to be around 5 to 7 keywords. So when you're setting up an account and trying to figure out which keywords you should optimize for, you should have one section that you're going to dedicate just to voice search or position 0, and set those longer, long tail keywords aside and figure out what you can write on your website to target just those longer, long tail keywords. Now, the other thing SEO Clarity did is they did some research using their platform, and what they found is that there are trigger words that people are using when they're searching for. And so some of those are how, why, where. But what they found is those trigger words are showing up in featured snippets. So if you think about it, most people are going to the internet to find an answer to something. So you are going to want to write content that answers the questions your customers are asking. And here's a larger breakdown if you want to take a snapshot of that. So those are the top trigger words that people are using when they're using voice search. The other thing they looked at is the descriptors. How, best, what. Those are frequent words that are used to trigger featured snippets. So I'll give you an example. My girlfriend lives in San Diego here. And a long, long time ago, we got tattoos when we were young. We decided this weekend that she was going to get another one or retouch up the one that she had gotten when we were younger. And we actually went online or went on her phone and said, Best Tattoo Parlor, San Diego, and got the voice results. Back when we got it in like the early 90s, we just randomly walked into the nearest tattoo parlor and hoped for the best, okay? This time, the results that came back, she had a shortened list, and she was able to see reviews, the number of people that left reviews, the 5 stars, whether or not they were open on Sunday, which they were, thankfully. So all that information is now readily available to people. So that's just an example of how people are using these trigger words when they're doing a search, especially for local businesses. You're also going to have to think about your content differently, okay? Voice search requires you to kind of think differently and write differently, especially when you're starting out the words on your page. So Google likes to have long content. They prefer anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 on up. How many of you guys hate that? Anybody hate that? Long-form content is really hard to write. The most important thing you should do when you're thinking about that content is making sure that the most important keywords and those trigger words are at the very beginning of your blog post, for instance, or the very beginning of your page, because that's what Google scans first. It's going to give them a signal to say, okay, this is the right content for these keywords. Let's keep going and see if it matches. So you want to, again, optimize for more than 5 keywords that are literally spoken. So don't think of the whole really, robotic, how do I blah. Talk. Write how you talk. Write how people talk to each other. Use words and phrase strings that people are using when they're asking a question. So if you're a local business, you want to think of what are my customers who potentially are going to be coming into my store, what questions are they asking? What is their local intent? When they're shopping or want to find out whether or not your business is a good fit for them, what questions are they asking themselves to find your business? And you want to write all of your content around that. Write individual pages on specific topics. So if there are specific topics related to your business, that you can break down into different questions, almost like a Q&A. Start thinking about how you can create content specifically about a topic. Can anybody in the room give me an example of an industry that you're working in? What was it? What was it? Oh, Lord. That makes my feet hurt just thinking of it. Okay. I can't say that necessarily, but in that case, you would use a trigger word. How do I stop plantar fasciitis? Or what are the treatments for I can't even say it. Foot pain, guys. She's talking about foot pain. Okay? Those are the types of pieces of content that you're going to write because you know that your potential customers are asking those questions. And again, what we're thinking is when they're talking about the voice search and the words that are spoken aloud, I just read an article from Backlinko today, and they did some research, and they said the average was around 29 words that are actually spoken through these devices. So chances are the search engines, what they're going to do is take the content, all the content that you wrote on your page, they're going to use about 29 words of it, okay? But those 29 words are going to be priceless if you can get into position 0. So you want to write long-form content. Just know that what you want to do is place that valuable answers to those questions towards the front, towards the beginning of your content, and make sure that you mark everything up with headings and all that other good stuff. Hemingway app is a great app to use. It will give you a grade level. So you want to write your content to be for usually 7th to 8th to 9th grade reading level. And I know that sounds kind of demeaning, but that's just what people want to read. They want to read at that level. So if you think using big fancy words is a good thing, it's not in this case. And generally for SEO purposes, it's not anyway. Grammarly is another tool that you can use. Love this tool. It will give you some ideas of ways you can make things more concise and succinct, because even though Google is going to be speaking it or Alexa is going to be speaking it, they want to make it as concise as possible. So don't add those extra words that aren't needed. And Grammarly helps you do that. And then again, if you're a local business, you want to think about your customers are probably on mobile devices and they're looking for things. Amazon, for instance, their Alexa device or their Echo focuses on zip codes typically. So they use Google's back end. No, they use Bing's back end, but they are also looking at zip codes, and they're looking at your address. They're also looking at if you purchased on Amazon before, you have an Amazon account, they're going to know everything you've purchased in the past. So if they find out that you have an interest in a particular topic and you're suddenly asking to find a local business about that, that's all going to impact what results you get back. And then the other thing is make sure if you're a local business that you're listed on Google My Business as well as the other online directories. That should be the first thing any local business does. And then here's just a few of the top online directories. I do have a list at the end of the slide deck that shows the ones that HubSpot thinks are the most popular online directories. But here are just a few of them. But you'll notice Apple is up there, so you can get on Siri. There's a lot of the GPS devices and navigators. You can get listed on their directories as well if you're a local business. And that's going to help if someone asks their smartphone or Siri or Alexa, where's the best pizza place? Okay? That's how you're going to get found in a lot of cases. The other suggestion that I make is that you find out what questions and answers customers are asking when they call you. How many of you guys have a sales team? Okay. How many of you have customer service team, like customer support? Great. What you need to do is get those guys in a room, or guys and gals in a room, and you're going to want to have them start keeping a list of what questions customers are asking, either before the sale, during the sale process, or after the sale. Start documenting those questions, and those should be topics that you should write about. So Ryan talked about Answer the Public, and this is actually a tool that I use all the time to get those trigger word ideas as far as keywords. There are also Question Samurai. If you've ever heard of Market Samurai, it's a great SEO tool. They have Question Samurai. Storybase is another really good one. You can set up Google Trends and Google Suggest, and that's, when you start typing in a search phrase, Google will give you a drop down, and that's a great thing to use as well. So definitely check those out. But this is just kind of a diagram of what you can get if you enter the word chiropractor. You will see that it has how, why, when. Those are all those trigger words that we're trying to rank for. So Answer the Public is giving you already what people are asking for in real life. So it's a great tool to use. It looks a little mind-numbing and cluttered, but those are the questions, and every single one of those would make a great blog post or a page on your website. And this is Question Samurai. Again, this uses Google's back end, and so you can see what people are searching for when you enter a keyword, and the same thing with Storybase. So those are the 3 tools I use mainly to come up with blog post ideas when I'm trying to rank high in general, but also trying to rank like I did for that Bright Local article with regard to negative online reviews. So here are just a few more SEO tips. So answer the questions people are asking. Make sure that you're always doing that because that's very, very important. Write like you talk, okay? So definitely get a more casual tone. I'm not saying you write sloppy like you're, 12-year-old, but definitely make it more casual in conversation because that's going to increase the chances of it showing up in voice search. Again, use headings. Headings 1, headings 2. Long tail keywords, again, are more important. Title tags are important. Description. The other thing is site load time is more important than ever because most people are using voice search on their smart devices like their smartphone or their tablet. So if your site is not loading fast, if it's not loading, if it's taking longer than 5 seconds to load, you're going to have a hard time ranking. And I know my site needs work on it as far as load time goes, and I can probably bet that the majority of people in the room here have that same issue. Has anybody checked what your site speed is on Google? How many of you guys know that you need to work on it? Yeah, me too, exactly. And that's going to be more important for voice search because, again, people are using their phones. So having a secure site is more important than ever, even if you don't have an e-commerce site. Google is really making the push, and they're actually showing warning signs if you don't have a secure site. So again, if you're not going to show up on their mobile-first mentality search results, you're going to have a hard time ranking in that position 0 for voice search. The other thing is build up your authority. A lot of that's going to be based on backlinks back and forth. So if you have any ways of guest blogging or writing or doing podcasts, like Pat Flynn was talking about last night, if you attended his session, there are a lot of ways you can use podcast relationships and maybe transcribe the podcast and turn that into a blog post. And, it's everyday people talking in podcasts. So you're going to get great trigger words throughout those pages if you transcribe or pay someone to transcribe a blog or a podcast, okay? And then again, for local businesses, you want to look for zip codes. They're going to be really important. Again, best practices for your website. We've got site speed, mobile. Make sure your Google's able to crawl your site. And then structured data. We're not going to cover schema too much in here, but structured data is very important because it gives the search engines a better idea of what your page is about. And sites that use structured data typically can see a larger click-through rate as well. So you definitely want to look at it, even if you think code is kind of yucky, which I think most SEO people think. There are different tools out there that will give you an easier way of adding that schema markup, which is so very important. Okay? So the good thing, as I mentioned, is Google has all these cool terms for all these great things, but you don't need to be overwhelmed because they're now calling featured snippets and everything else rich results. So it's going to be rich results from now on, which is a lot easier than featured snippets and all that other stuff. So schema markup, again, is a great way to tell the search engines exactly what that blog post or that company is about. And there are different types of schema markup that you should use. So if you're not getting into schema now, I would recommend you do that. And that's something that I have been putting off for a long time, and I'm now finally starting to add schema markup to my site and my client's site, and I'm already seeing a difference. So for non-techie people, it's kind of scary, but there are tools out there that can save you. So if you're not a coder or a programmer, there are tools out there like Schema App. Schema App is a WordPress plugin, and they also can work on other websites as well, like Shopify. And they are going to allow you to edit and create schema in a much more user-friendly way. So you don't have to be a geek or a programmer to do it. And then you want to test it, obviously. So developers, this is where you guys get some cool and exciting things. Now again, for some of us, coding and thinking about, programming is a scary thing. But for any of the developers in the room, voice search and these devices are a huge opportunity for you guys. You can create Alexa skills through Amazon and flash briefings. You can learn how to create those things that answer the questions people ask for. So you could create a skill that talks about what type of breed dog should we get for these type of people. Just like you get something approved in the iTunes store or the App Store, it's the same type of process for Amazon and Google as well as Apple. So developers start thinking about and looking into how you can use those tools to create these things for all of the different devices out there. Because if you start doing that now, you are literally going to be way ahead of anybody else on the market that's in your industry. And I have resources at the end. You're going to get the deck, and that's it.